Hello, folks. You're all very welcome back to the Celtic Soul Podcast. After a little break, joining me to talk all things Celtic today is our regular guest, Glasgow journalist and Celtic fan, Michael Pringle. If you're listening on audio, please hit the follow. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, leave a comment, and do what you have to do. Set the alarm so you never miss an episode of the podcast. And for more information on everything we do, you can visit celticfanzine.com, where you'll find all our audio, video, articles, blogs, fanzine, and our live events. All the information is there. And everything started 25 years ago when the first issue of More Than 90 Minutes went on sale outside Celtic Park. A lot has happened in those 25 years, and a lot has happened in the last couple of weeks. It's been a massive few weeks, Michael. We spoke a couple of weeks ago about how there was 2 weeks that could define Celtic's season. It could be all over in 2 weeks, or we could still be fighting on 3 fronts. We're now fighting on 2 fronts. We were knocked out of Europe by Stuttgart, but we did put in a really good away performance, which was a confidence booster for everyone. It was a brilliant night in Stuttgart, a great away trip, but ultimately we're out of Europe. We then had we lost to Hibs in the league, which was a bit of a shock, especially at home, because we've been scraping results and we just thought O'Neill could get the best in every game. We then had a Jekyll and Hyde performance in Ibrox, where the first half was very, very bad. Second half was very, very good. Then we had a tricky away trip up to Aberdeen for a rearranged fixture, which we won 2-1, and then we had Sunday. What a day Sunday turned out to be. Now the fallout from Sunday is people calling for a ban on fans. Now, which my reply to that is, how come 25,000 of each fans can go to Hampden?
Of course.
And it's stewarded and policed. And now they're calling for 7,500 fans not to be allowed in to either ground. It's an easy way and a cop out. And I think I'm not a fan of fans going on the pitch, because we have it. It seems more common now, but we also have it in the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. But in the Aviva Stadium Dublin, it was normally kids running onto the pitch to a big cheer from the singing section behind the goals. And they were trying to get selfies with the players, at the end of the game. Or if a goal was scored, you might get a kid running on. But it was nothing like, we'll say, what we saw on Sunday. But what they done in the Aviva was they brought in enough stewards and police to do the game. And they have these little netting that they lift up if a goal scored, or at half time or in full time. They lift up a little netting so that you can't get onto the pitch.
Yeah.
You can
simple solution.
It's simple. No, they didn't spend huge money. They went to a DIY shop and all of this stuff. And the Aviva Stadium is a fantastic stadium. But this was a simple way. When there is a flare on the pitch, there's not a big hullabaloo. It's not all over the media. Yeah. They have 3 or 4 fire officers there who go onto the pitch with a bucket and take the flare off. So we've had a big flare issue, on Dundalk's artificial pitch recently when Drogheda went up. But in the National Stadium in Scotland and Ireland, it's easy. It seems to be easy to manage away fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, when on Sunday it was, it's been like, we can address the situation of the fans on the pitch, but for everybody to come out and just go, oh, that's it, over now. Celtic should be out and Rangers should be out saying, well, Rangers ain't going to come out anyway because they don't want us in the stadium. Because they started all this ban because they just couldn't have Fenians around the place winning. No, that's what this goes down to. This is just the sectarianism of Rangers. Always has been and always will be. So let's address that, Michael. But what's your thoughts on the media and those coming out and calling for a ban on Celtic fans?
Well, it seems to be that it's the police and the majority of Rangers. Rangers fans didn't want us back in there because they're sick of us partying and stuff in there, weren't they? So they didn't want us there. The police Emma Scott, chief superintendent or whatever she is, has come out and says she doesn't think there'll be a big allocation, big away allocations now. I think the police operation was by design. I thought it was a horrendously thought out police plan for before the match. For the visiting supporters, we were corralled into a small street and lane, and then herded through what could only be described as a designed bottleneck, which was in the name of ticket ticket checks, but tickets weren't properly checked anyway. So what purpose that served is beyond me. The car park was too small for the amount of buses that turned up. It was just the policing operation looked as if it was the same for when there was 700, 800 fans rather than the 7,900 plus that we had on Sunday. And I took it up with one of the sort of senior police officers at the stadium on Sunday. I went, who came up with this plan? It's absolute nonsense. And I'm sure that John Paul Taylor questioned some of this as well. But you've got I'm sure Mark Hargreaves could have spoke up and questions why this police operation was given the go ahead like this. I mean, he's the head of Celtic safety and security, and that was just an unsafe for me. There was nothing about it. Police Scotland's sort of motto was keeping people safe. Nothing could have been further from the truth on Sunday. It was designed to fail. I thought the police operation prior to the game on Sunday, never mind what went on after it. I mean, Emma Scott has come out and said that she didn't question there's anything wrong with their approach to the game. When we did receive the full allocation for league games, etc., some years back now, the buses would always park in Helen Street, and the Celtic support would make their way en masse towards the Brimley roundabout and approach the Brimley Road stand for there. Massive open space, no problems. Instead, on Sunday there, the bus is beyond the cut-off we would normally take, up to almost the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, the Southern General, then back down through Drummoyne, Langlands Roadway, back down onto Govan Road and back up. It was just absolute nonsense. And whoever came up with a policing plan on Sunday should be sacked. That's in my opinion. Police Scotland were culpable for they set the tone for what went on afterwards. I thought prior to the game, I mean, for people to be herded into this, there was people. I was speaking to someone that was just released from the hospital recently, and he's just had a big operation, and he had tubes and stuff in his leg and in his body. And I says, you need to go and speak to them and try and see if they'll let you through. You can't get squashed into this. It was like herding cattle. It was like something for the 70s again. It was just beyond belief. So I think Police Scotland are culpable, not just for that, but where were they when there was hundreds pouring on for the far end of the park? I mean, they should have never been allowed to make. I mean, regardless, Celtic supporters shouldn't be on the park, right? That they shouldn't be on the park, but this happens regularly, not just with Celtic fans, with Rangers fans and fans of other clubs. They go into the park, into the 6-yard box, etc. after a late goal, celebrate. There's never been any other set of fans that have come on and ran the full length of the park to get involved, to try and fight. It was Stewards KO'd, Celtic staff attacked. I mean, I tend not to listen to Clyde Super Scoreboard, but I listened to it last night just to hear some of the meltdown for the Rangers fans. And one came on and says 100% the Celtics. It was the fault of the Celtic supporters. For what? For what? I mean, we weren't the support that ran 100 yards to get involved and knock out stewards and karate kick people and say about players and staff. And this isn't a one-off. It's happened so many times with Rangers. It's near the common denominator in all this. I mean, it happened with Hibs. If you can go back to the 20s or the 60s, the 65 cup final, the 69 cup final. Usually when they get beat, I mean, and there's always more trouble in Glasgow as well after they're defeated It's not something new. But we've got 25,000 each at Hampden. That's policed very easily. And there's no reason that Sunday's game shouldn't have been policed just as easily. But they came up with this crazy police operation for Sunday that fell at every single hurdle. There should have been, I mean, if they learnt nothing from the 1980 Cup final, when all the police were stationed outside the stadium, I mean, there was horses and countless numbers of police officers at the away sector, outside the away sector. But where were they inside? I mean, it was left to a handful of stewards who are no paid anywhere near enough to be stopping football hooligans coming onto the park, and it was left to them. They were the thin, high vis line down at the Copeland Road stand, and they made their way 80 yards before they met any opposition for the police. I know the police threw batons and they're reluctant to make arrests at the time, but it was just absolute madness, no? But I believe the policing operation was terrible right for the off, and I think it was designed that way so that they could just go like, you know what, this isn't safe. We've got safety issues. We can't give anybody a bigger allocation. Despite the fact that the 25,000 at Hampden completely flies in the face of that.
100%.
Aye. We did say a few weeks ago it'd be a big 10 days or so with these 4 away games. Going back to the football, we come through them completely unscathed. How we managed that is beyond me, because I didn't expect us to win in Stuttgart, which was a wee morale booster, if nothing else. Aberdeen, I did expect us to win up there, but we maybe made a wee bit more heavy weather than I expected. The game last Sunday, as in the 1st of March, the league game at Ibrox, at half time, I wouldn't have gave us a hope in hell of getting back into that. We were so poor in the first half, but we showed real character and dominated the second half. And then when I seen the lineup on Sunday there for the cup game, with McGregor missing and Tierney missing, I really thought we were going to be up against it, and it proved to be. But despite the fact that we only had one shot in 120 minutes of football, and Rangers had 24. I don't remember them having 24. Most of them were blocked and stuff, but 6 on target, supposedly. Our goalkeeper wasn't really bothered. Sinisalo was assured, confident. I thought it was a really good defensive display for us, although we offered little for middle to front. But we've come out of 4 games and we're in a stronger position now than what we were previously. So we're into the cup semi-final, and I'm sure we'll be looking for a bit of revenge on St Mirren when we face them next mid-month, mid-April in the cup semi-final. Really good other semi-final, I should say, with Dunfermline and Falkirk, who are bitter rivals. Should be a really good game, that as well. So there's a great chance he's taking the cup, and we're also still in the running for the league. This is going to be a big one. We keep saying this every week. This is a big one. We know it's a must win, but we've got Motherwell this week, who I watched most of their game on Saturday against Dundee, and I know they lost, and they were maybe a wee bit below par, but they still had about 67% possession and still had a lot of shots and goal and stuff. I think Dundee had 2 shots and goal and basically mugged them. Scored 2 goals for 2 shots. So it's going to be a really tough one. Motherwell have got a strong. Well, they've sold out their allocation. I know it's only 750, but which is no a lot in the grand scheme of things when you come to Celtic Park. But I'm sure their fans will get behind them and believe that they can take something for Celtic Park, given their displays against us and at Ibrox earlier in the season. But we've still got all to play for, but it could still implode quite quickly. Maybe not the cup. I think we're strong favourites now to take the Scottish Cup, to regain the Scottish Cup after last year against Aberdeen. Just for speaking, when you go back to the penalty shootout against Aberdeen, if you look at the amount of stewards behind the goals when the penalty shootout was taken last at Hampden in May there, and compare it to what was going on Sunday, it's just night and day. You know what I mean? I mean, I know there's obviously a visual thing with Ibrox because you're quite close to the park and quite low down. There may be a visual thing with stewards, but I'm sure they could have got a line of stewards or a line of police along there, both ends, and made that a lot more difficult for people to get onto the park. I'm not saying it would have prevented them entirely, but it was people piling on for the Govan stand that were making their way towards people, Celtic supporters who were still seated in their seats. So it wasn't as if there was the Celtic. Don't get me wrong, there was Celtic fans goading them. I was up the back of the Broomloan, the rear section. I was up the back of the rear section, so I had a good view of everything that was going on. There was Celtic supporters that were sort of goading them and stuff, but it doesn't merit fans, opposition fans coming on and try to make their way into their stands, because basically that's what was happening. And for hundreds to be allowed to, I mean, seen the ultras coming on at the other side, and it was 5 or 6 of them come on at first, and they were waving the rest on. At that point, they should have been stopped and ushered back in, and the line should have been formed further up the park to stop them getting to where they did. No, but aye, it's the usual false self-equivalence. That we're as much to blame, and that's the sort of what the media has been painting here as well. I noticed that STV led with the 66 stuff last night and the vandalism in the stadium, and aye, for me the 66 stuff's deplorable. Not I mean, it's just, I don't think people losing their lives at football matches shouldn't be something that's used for point scoring by opposition fans. But on the flip side of that, I mean, the chants about the pedos and stuff is just as bad in my book, no. So you can paint it what you like, and there has been a concerted effort to make this all about the Celtic fans coming on or to blame and stuff, when really there's only one set of fans that can't handle getting beat and resort to this time and time again, this sort of behaviour time and time again. I'm not condoning the fact that Celtic fans were on the park. There shouldn't be an ideal world, but there is an exuberance at times, especially in games like this. Not just in games like this. We've seen it at Kilmarnock the other week with the late going stuff. It happens. But when Rangers scored their handball goal, they piled onto the park for the Govan stand at that point. So we didn't then go into the park and try and attack them because of that. Oh, so aye, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, Michael, I just want to, you made a few great points now. I've been to Ibrox many times, and the coaches always parked up. And even if we were driving, we would have went and parked close to the coaches.
Yeah,
we would have got off the coach, strolled to the pitch, strolled to the Broomloan end. A couple of burger vans on the way. People would have stopped at a burger. You would have got to the roundabout. Some people would have picked up their ticket there. Mm-hmm. And then there would have been people with money in their hands looking for a spare ticket. And there was occasions when someone didn't turn up because they were drunk the night before or they missed their flight. And there was tickets sold. You then walked round to the turnstiles where there was another coffee burger van where people queued up, got a coffee. You didn't have to be in the stadium at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You was in the stadium at 11:30, 12:15. It was a 12:30 kickoff, 12 o'clock. So, and then we left the stadium. If we won, we were singing for a while. We left the stadium, went back to our buses, back into whatever pub we came from, or hotel or whatever. And then we had this time. Then you've all this extra, we're going to park you here. You have to walk here. You have to stand here because football fans in general are treated like animals in a lot of places they go to. Like when I think back when we played Shakhtar Shakhtar, yeah. When we played them at the start of the Ukrainian war, when we played them in Poland, like no problem getting into the ground. But when we came out of that ground that night, we were They pulled gas out. We were in a little holding area. They had gas ready, water cannons, and then we had to run the gauntlet through a dark park to get the buses that was going to bus us back into the sea. Frightening stuff, especially for people who had kids with them. But so, this just doesn't happen in Scotland. Policing can be either over the top or poorly policed. But the police won't come out and blame themselves.
Oh, no, never take any accountability,
So that's one thing.
Not.
Another thing about Falkirk, Dundee, the other games in the Cup, Falkirk, Dundee United, good win for Falkirk. Really impressed this season. They've been very good all season. And then Neil Lennon with Dunfermline, what a brilliant result, 3-0 against Aberdeen. He must be on cloud nine. He was commentating on the game as well on Sunday, so he had a busy weekend. And then to get that local derby in the semi-finals will be a brilliant occasion for both sets of fans.
Yeah.
And great to see them back at Hampden. Thistle missed out against St Mirren. We're hoping for a Glasgow derby there.
It was a terrible VAR decision in that game as well.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And they're now, but we now have a revenge mission which adds to the game because, they knocked us, they beat us in the League Cup final. After O'Neill had got us there, beating Rangers in Hampden, no issues getting in and out of the stadium, no issues parking your buses.
No.
So no issue getting a train. So let's just say, right, it's bullshit to say that Celtic fans can't be policed in Ibrox and Rangers fans can't be policed. The Canada does a proper police plan.
Yeah.
So,
Ibrox probably lends itself better to
because
it
it's a full stand.
Because of the space and stuff around about it as well. So the stands are detached from each other. But see, going back to the parking and stuff, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the video where the guy that had his head stamped on while he was unconscious.
I did.
Well, I read something online yesterday that says it was actually for Dundee.
They were told to park there.
They were told to park there, so there wasn't enough room in the bus park. And it looked plainly obvious. I mean, our bus arrived at 11:30. We didn't arrive at 10 o'clock or anything. We left at 11. We arrived basically 11:30. So a couple of miles from where we depart. And when we got there, I was like, this is absolutely mental. It's a thin, narrow car park. I was like, they're never going to fit the buses in here. So it was obvious that was going to be the case.
But it's mathematics, Michael. It's mathematics. How many buses, how many tickets have they got? How many buses is that? Well, and we'll do an oversize because there may be smaller buses or that, right? It's not rocket science. This isn't planning.
They end up parking them beside
buses
for Belfast, supposedly. So, and then they get attacked. So, hopefully that guy's okay. I seen a picture of him in the aftermath.
He didn't look good.
Face. No, so hopefully he's okay. Makes a full recovery. But I mean, my wee boy yesterday. My wee boy doesn't like football, but he came in for school and I says, but we're talking about it was a really big fire in Glasgow.
Yeah.
The other night, so right next to Central Station, a building that was built in the 1850s has come down. It's a sort of landmark building for me because I was always for the north of the city, northeast. So when you come in for the north of the city and the bus turned onto Renfield Street, that was what you seen. There was a big Iron Brew sign and the big dome on top of it. So it was sort of. It's sort of engraved on my mind for being a child, seeing that when I was on the bus coming in, and it's now gone. So the kid, I thought the kids in school would have been talking about that, but my wee boy doesn't like football. But Monday he says everybody was talking about the football, saying people died and stuff. I said no one died. I says, but there was a bit of fighting and stuff, and I was explaining to him, try to explain to him how this just came about and how that it's not an uncommon occurrence when a certain one of the two teams gets beat, a certain one of them. So So I think it was a bit beyond his comprehension. I mean, how this can erupt for a football match, you know what I mean? So But
and normally, Michael, on the podcast now, we'd be looking ahead to the next game. You spoke there about Motherwell, and they've been doing. They've had a brilliant season. They've got the gem of a manager. The fans must
shock defeat.
The fans must be enjoying it, but it may be back to a 3-horse race, but
Aye.
Motherwell can decide where this title goes because they're good enough to take points off any of the teams. They proved that, especially at home. So it'll be interesting to see. But even ahead of that, like, there's so much to talk about, and I've tried to avoid talking to people who aren't Celtic fans or attend, regular football matches, because all they're getting is the media narrative in newspapers and, on podcasts, and even some headbangers of Rangers fans coming on and trying to defend what they've done, because we have no right to be there. That's basically what they're saying.
That's it. We've no right to go there and win, especially with a depleted squad either. But I mean, they were talking about guarding Ibrox and guarding our players. I mean, this is the same people that are guarding statues in George Square a couple of years ago. I mean, this is the same mentality. You know what I mean? Guarding.
And they weren't going anywhere. But yeah, like you said, like a weakened team, like Danny Rule, the Rangers players, and all the Rangers fans must have thought when they seen the team sheet, as we did. McGregor missing, the captain never misses a minute. Kieran Tierney finding his best form since he came back, getting himself back fitter every week. And even when I looked at it, and then I looked, no Sirachi, and I'm thinking, right, he's gone for height maybe because he doesn't want to be bullied by Rangers. But in fairness, Scales led by example. It was a captain's performance. The whole back line were absolutely excellent. The game was not a classic game of football, but it was a battle, Michael. It was a battle, and there was plenty of heart in and plenty of, from both sets of players, they were up for the game. And I think, like, they made a goal. It's a hairline.
That's something that's not been made. There's not much an issue being made of that.
But there's not much about the game at all, because it's all about
the lines.
The fans.
See, the VAR lines are deplorable. I can't hang up a better word right at this moment. I don't want one that's not a swear word, but wow, man, how did they come to the? I've seen an angle for the Govan stand. It's a Rangers fan actually, and Scales looks onside. You know what I mean? So how they can explain that one is beyond me. But because everything else that's went on after the game, that should be washed away. Rangers, if I had happened to Rangers, they'd be going on about us for months if that decision had went against them. I thought it was a certainty they were going to get a goal. Obviously, I'm up at far end. I was like, surely that's a goal. And then when I seen how long they were taking, I went, they must be trying to draw the squinty lines. And then when I actually seen the lines later, I went, you're kidding us on. How can you possibly? You don't even know which which player that they're drawing the Rangers line off of. It's mental. Can I just have, before I forget, a wee special mention for Araujo? Wow, man, that's the sort of player we've been missing. And one of my mates said to me this morning, we should be playing him in the midfield because he's the type of player, he's a tenacious sort of ball winner. We could be doing with him in the midfield once Alistair Johnson comes back. Alistair Johnson, I seen, he was in with the fans on Sunday. Him, Ralston, and Carter Vickers. So there were a couple of maybe.
He was in disguise with his baseball cap and his shades.
8 or 9 rows in front of me. There was a couple of Celtic stewards with him, but but they were on the aisle. Him and Ralston were either side of the aisle. But Engels, I never seen Engels, but Engels was there as well. But wow, man. But as you say, as a spectacle, the game was dreadful. I mean, you go back to the first game at Ibrox this season, and 0-0.
It wasn't as bad as that. It wasn't.
That was dreadful as well, man. So, but I was at the end of the game there, I was like, that's 2 years of my life I will never get back, because you'll never remember anything about that game other than what happened at the penalties and what happened at the end, and the Maeda goal. Aye. Special mention for Araujo for winding them up. You've got to love the guy.
He reminded me of the Alan Thompson days, the Neil Lennon days, when we were, Barry Feggs, when we were up in their faces, and the players were, there was some battles, Tom Rickson, Lennon and Ferguson, these were, and he gets it. I spoke before about him. He done the Celtics official podcast, and he was brilliant. He spoke about why he plays for Mexico. He's Mexican, even though he's been born in America. About the family coming over to watch Mexico games, You know, how about his father selling sweets on the street. You know, they come from nothing. You know,
Aye.
and when he goes to the games, when he's on the bus going in Mexico, going to the games, when he's on the bus and he sees the little sweet sellers outside the ground,
Yeah.
you know, he can relate to them, and he's there doing it for them. And when you have a player with so much passion, you know, and you see him after the game, then right now this is where social media lets itself down. If Celtic fans are taking videos of Celtic players having a good time, stop, because
Aye.
it only gives the media more fuel, right?
TikTok
Stop.
generation.
Stop. Cop yourself on. Let the players have a good night out, like we did. Like I don't know many times I've bumped into players, especially in that Martin O'Neill forced era, because I think O'Neill encouraged them to go out and have a night out, and they didn't need
Yeah.
much. They didn't need much encouragement because they were, you know, there was a lot of men in that team. A lot like you often hear them when you do interviews with them about, you know, going to Ibrox and looking around and the players that was on that bus, you know. And I'm not talking about the
There was no shrinking violets.
you know, I'm not like these O'Neill had, and he had time. He said that in an interview recently. You know, he built that team up. That was his team. He knew everything they could bring to the game, everything they couldn't. So, you know, he's doing his best with a poor squad. You know, and that goes back, you know, and like, it's not one for talking about the board, but that goes back to the mismanagement of the club. But like, if the defense were fantastic, when they made the subs to go up front, I think it's the worst forward line I've seen. You know, and I'm not knocking James Forrest. James Forrest's best days are behind him. He still can do a little bit for you.
Yeah.
It was as if they couldn't hold the ball when they got.
Nah, they couldn't. I just thought. I mean, I'm hoping that performance for Mvuka isn't a characteristic of him, because wow, man, he looked like a competition winner when he came on. No, I just thought he honestly did, man.
In one of them Legends games.
I just sign here for, and I was like, wow, this guy can't be as bad as this, surely, man. So I'm hoping that he proves his rang, and the next performance is nothing like that, and it's just been flung in at the deep end sort of thing. I mean, defensively we were very good. Even Dane Murray came on and never put a foot wrong. I just thought defensively we were really good. I think we're lacking in the middle. We've not really got a ball winner in the middle of the park. We've not got that sort of tenacious midfielder that Scott Brown was, for example, and others before him. Even go back to Paul Lambert and Neil Lennon and stuff. We've always had somebody in the middle that's a ball winner. When you look back at Stefan Johansson and stuff like that. No, even when we've not been that great, we've had somebody that's got a wee bit of dig about him. I think Engels gives us that. I think his play's got a bit more bite about it now. But so I think he's been a big loss for us in the last month or so. I think that's somewhere. I mean, I thought.
When you think about the players that were missing, you know, if you go back, like the ones that was in the stands, Tierney McGregor, Carter Vickers,
Johnson.
Engels, Johnson, you know, and hats off to Sinsala, the goalkeeper.
Sinsala was excellent, man.
What a performance, right? Coming out of his box, commanding. You know, we now have a keeper who's now come through the ranks, if you know what I mean. He's there a while. He hasn't gone out on loan. He's taken his chances because of injuries to Schmeichel, but now he is now the number one keeper.
Even during the penalties, the first penalty when
he was so vocal, wasn't he?
Even when Tavernier missed, which was a big shock. I just said, when I seen him stepping up to take the first one, I went, this is a goal started, minute, because he doesn't miss. Bang, he's missed it. The balls went over the bar, obviously. When it came back into play, Sinisalo managed to grab it before Butland, because Butland would have walked up to the Celtic player and gave it all the patter, you know what I mean? And if the ref hadn't taken the ball, but Sinisalo made sure he got it first, and I thought that was good. And then after that, the ref managed to get the ball each time. So, but I thought Sinisalo was brilliant. He was really assured.
And he was so mouthy. He was so mouthy to the players coming up, like, you know. And
now, and even I seen him taking a pass back at one point. I can't remember if it was Bernard or Trusty that was putting it back to him, but he was pointing. He was like pointing to put it on my left foot, and sure enough, he was really, really assured. And I thought it was he didn't have a great deal today in saves. He had one that he saved late on that was flagged for offside, but his handling was really good. No, it's really, really good when you see a keeper coming to take crosses and stuff like that, because very, very few do it now. They rely on their centre backs, no, but it just creates a calmness in the defence. So I
do
thought
you know
good.
who I thought about? Even when you said that, but a player coming for a ball, goalies, keepers, they don't do it anymore. John Fallon was always saying that, and we've a tribute night, a solo tribute night to John on Saturday night, Michael, with both of them, and he was, we all know, John, he breathed Celtic, but he would always say that, he loved, in recent years, he loved Arthur Barrett, right? But he was he was critical of keepers that when they wouldn't come for balls, and just when you said that, I just got a flashback to, John telling me stuff like this, and I think he would have been. I think John would have been delighted with that keeper's performance.
Yeah, it just takes so much pressure off a back four or back five, regardless.
Like twice he came out. Twice he was out way out of his box, and he won the balls.
Good
so
header.
He was so switched on, and even when he talks about the game, he's a confident kid.
Aye, no, it should be. You know what I mean? But I think he's
players could go. Players could go there and fold, Michael.
Aye, his inclusion has been overdue, because we've stuck with Casper through a poor run of form, and it was not just to his detriment, but the team's detriment as well. And much as I think Casper Schmeichel has been treated unfairly, there was no doubt he had to be left out, and probably earlier than what it should have been.
Yeah.
Probably should have been left out of the cup final last year as well. And then he made that mistake, and I think he's just made far too many mistakes this season. I watched something the other week, Sky Sports, and he was named in the top 24 Premier League keepers of all time. So for anybody that's dissing him now, all right, he's not his peak anywhere, but he is a quality keeper. But he's whether it be that he's unfit or out of form, or there's a psychological thing with a shoulder injury, he should have been. Sinisal should have replaced him before he did, and maybe we wouldn't be in the position that we're in. But
and you know what, he's been a quality goalkeeper. He's played at the highest level, but Father Time waits for nobody.
Exactly.
And I know goalkeepers,
I know that more than most.
They're looking well for 80.
Aye.
But, and another thing, right? Another thing about the police and the shooting, right? And social media, right? Like, who's the Celtic fan? The video of the Celtic fans coming in. There's only a handful of fans go through the stewards, right?
Aye, that shows you about 10 people or something, doesn't it?
Right. But yeah, a Celtic fan's happy enough to video it, right? And then I seen a Celtic fan putting it up that he didn't need a ticket in, right? And I'm going, a young Irish boy, right? And I'm saying to myself,
TikTok generation.
Fucking enjoyed it. You've got in. I'm not a fan of that, because I've been locked out twice myself. Rome was a disaster because people photocopied them stupid fucking tickets, right?
The Roma game.
Roma away. Do you remember we couldn't get... Not Roma, Lazio.
Lazio,
Roma, sorry. The second game, the Champions League one. The Europa League game when Lennon was managing, we beat them. Brilliant night. Same bar, same time going to the ground, and then you go up this time, you can't get in. And then your Celtic fans boasting that, I sent it to 10 of me mates. And you go, well, one of your mates is in there in my place because I can't get in. Some of the lads waited till half time to get in. I didn't. I left after 10 minutes and went back to the pub and watched it, right? But there's a long way to go to a game of football with a legitimate brief and knock it in. And then we had it in Blackburn back in O'Neill's
Blackburn, I was going to say that. 2003,
right?
2002.
Blackburn went down. You went down. No, sorry, we're closed.
I was there, right? I was there for the turnstiles opening, right? And they opened, this is Blackburn. I thought, I'm getting in here early because there was loads of forged tickets. I mean, so people are always going to find a way of getting in if they've not got a ticket. They want to see the game. The turnstiles opened, and they weren't opened any more than 3 minutes, and they were all shut again because people just piled in as soon as they could without tickets. So I was like, I'm getting in here early, and there was loads of people that didn't get in with them. For as long as I can remember, there's been forced tickets. I remember my uncle coming back from Wembley. He was doing for Scotland England game at Wembley, I think in '79, and he came back with a forged ticket. And at that time, the sort of hologram thing wasn't about, but if you held the paper ticket up to the light, there was a lion's head in it. And my uncle had one that didn't have one. No, so that was my first seen the first sort of forged ticket. And then Middlesbrough, I always remember Tony Mowbray's testimonial, and there was thousands of forged tickets for that game. And I've still got the 2 tickets. I've got a forged one and an original one, and they're almost identical, except one's a shinier sort of yellow. They're yellow and white. One's a sort of shiny one, and the other one was dull matte. But there was thousands of Celtic fans getting that day as well, and they were all crammed into. There was a stand behind the goal.
Trouble at that game as well.
It was a seated stand behind the goal. Aye, that was mental. And the 2 corner sections were standing sections. So, but there was people piling out. The standing sections were packed. There were small pens. Everybody piling out the fence, trying to get into the seated area to go to this squash. No, so it's nothing. It's nothing new. People will always find a way.
I had 2 tickets for Blackburn, Michael. I had 2 tickets, right? One for Blackburn. Jerry Morgan got off me a lot of mess, and one for the Celtic end. And I was hanging on for someone, and I ended up, Lappin Donegal bought the ticket off me, and that's why I wasn't in early. I was hanging on. And plus, we would have been selling the fanzines back then as well, outside the stadium, me and Henry. But I was remember, Rome, I'm a bit more mature, you know what I mean? I'm going to the pub to watch this. But I missed the first half because trying to get in, and ended up getting in a banny with the police. But I did get in to see some of the second half in the Dome. If you remember, there was a pub with a dome beside the ground.
Right. Aye.
And yeah, it was just like, but yeah, I'm not a fan of that, right? But then to put yourself out on social media and say I didn't get a ticket, but look at me. Well, you won't be getting one again, mate, if Celtic see it. But and like,
but there's loads of people rolled up to that game on Sunday who probably haven't been to a game all season. Or there was I noticed a considerable amount of people that I don't see that often at aways, or but they're all like that. It's Ibrox. For a lot of people, it's probably their only chance to get Ibrox, because I don't know how many years it's been now if we had the full allocation. So for a lot of them, a lot of the younger ones and stuff, they're like, this is the only chance they're going to get to experience that sort of full stand.
Generation.
The TikTok generation, like, hey, get a phone out. We're in. We're in the disabled gate.
You look right. You look at the penalties, right? We haven't spoken about the penalties, right? But Celtic's penalties were really well taken, right? And I'd say Scales was delighted because I think he was taking the 5th.
I was wondering who was actually taking it.
I think so. I think I read that somewhere. So I'd say he was, this is magic, like, but the penalties were brilliant. And then, the celebrations, right? So the players, initially they celebrate, they run towards the Celtic fans, which is do. The Celtic fans run towards them, right? But then I see people with their phones out getting selfies with the players, right? But I seen one in a tracksuit, right? Now, I'm not sure if it was a substitute or one of the backroom team, but someone was getting a selfie with him. Even Matt O'Neill, people like it's just that generation, isn't it? Like,
it's like the first thing is to get. I was talking to get a half time, right? I went down to the toilet at half time. It was absolutely murder getting down the stairs. Boys were in the rear section, the front of the rear section, so they were all congregated basically where the entrance exit is to go down into the concourse. And so managed to wangle my way down the stairs eventually, busting for a pee. Gets down there, and there's Alistair Johnston getting selfies with everybody. Him and I think it was Ralston that was there. So the two of them are getting selfies with everybody, young boys. And I went, at first I sort of had to do a double take, and I went, I know. And then I realised, I went, Alistair Johnston. He actually looks smaller in person than what he looks on the park. And I get into the toilet, and the guy says, I've just got a selfie, and I phoned my ma and says, I've got a selfie. It's my 25th birthday. He says, I went to send it. My ma deleted it by accident. I was like, what a waste of time, you know what I mean? So,
But
the TikTok generation, I call them.
like you're on the pitch, right? And your first thing is we've just won on penalties, right? You're elated, right? Where's my phone? I get a selfie.
Aye, there's my phone. That's it.
Just a different generation, isn't it?
I suppose there is that element. I go into a panic sort of mode if I realise I've not got my phone with me. You know, I could be on it and then feel my pocket and go, "Where's my phone?" So there is that.
Oh,
It brings its own anxiety, but I don't really see the point in living through. I mean, everybody does it, gigs and stuff now, especially younger people. They've got their phones up right away, and you're watching the gig through a phone. And I'm like, who are you going to show this to? And then I've found myself guilty of doing it now and again as well. I go, I'll have a wee photo, a wee video when I'm at concerts.
yeah. But the
So,
good, I always say, right, and someone has a better phone than me or a better camera, right, and they're going to put it out.
I'm
Anyway.
on YouTube in the morning
So
anyway. Somebody will put up.
And we were up at Stiff Little Fingers, Pill, and Champ 69 in Belfast in the summer. And I finally met one of the guys that I'd watch his videos. He's from Balbriggan. I think he calls himself the vegan Viking. If you check his stuff out, right, he goes to all punk and 80s gigs and that. A lot of punk gigs, right? You'd love his videos, right? But the camera, like he's standing beside me, and I actually have a video on my phone of I think it's Sham 69, and I'm further up than him at this stage, right? But they're night and day. Because he's got a proper camera that he can zoom in. Yeah. But the stuff is brilliant, like, you know. So yeah, so for kids out there, keep your phones in your pockets because someone has a better camera than you.
Definitely. That's always the case.
And but it was like, and I think, you know, the Maida goal got overlooked. The penalties, which were really good, got overlooked then because of the celebrations.
Really good.
But for
really
me, Michael, right, people were on the pitch to celebrate, right? But they should have been. They shouldn't have been on the pitch. It's for the players, right? You know, but the police had to draw the line then, right? But as you said, how can you let them get onto the pitch and then invite their mates on? Now everybody knows who it was because they were all dressed as Spider-Man, right? You know, the Onion Bears or the Union Bears or whatever they call themselves, right? Now, they done their tifo, right? They had their tifo and that, right? But I'll tell you one thing, right?
There was a tifo at Celtic end, I know, but it never got in. They never managed to get it in. It was
see the
setting fire in the car park.
See the streamers?
Oh.
Absolutely brilliant, right? The streamers, right? And then when the teams come out, right? Simply the best for Celtic fans to now take that over, right? You know, to go to someone's stadium, right?
It's ultimate slap.
They've spent so much time on their tifo, right? To be outdone by streamers and to be outsang with your song, simply the best, you know. Now I'd say, you know, if you like, I've always wondered why they use the black R&B artist singer when a lot of them are racist, like. So, you know, but that's another podcast. But I just thought the start was, you know, and especially, and they're probably going, look at them, no? They're missing half the team because half the team was in the stand with the streamers. You know, when you think of it, and there was also a couple of ex-Celtic players as well, like Cotton Cameron as well, and the thing. So it was a great, you know, apart from the pitch thing, right? That was a great battle. That game was a great battle. It wasn't a classic game of football, right?
No,
but it was like
it was the ball was in the air and it was in the ground. I think more than it was on the deck. There was a lot of headed balls and. It was just blocks and back and misplaced passes.
And you would question, like Danny Rule has done really well since he's gone in there, right? They spent 40 million, right? Yeah, and you would question that the best player is probably a loan sign and the young lad they took up from Tottenham, right? Moore, is it?
Aye, Mikey Moore.
Yeah, you know, is he the best player? I think the man Raskin's
nullified him, but no.
Yeah, and
really well.
he learned from the previous game, the first half of the previous game, and you've also got Raskin who you know, who buys into it as well. You know, he's in the Celtic players' face and that, right? And like if you don't have the best players in the world, right? And we've seen poor Celtic teams go to Ibrox and win.
Yeah,
you know, because there's you have to have it. And I can't question any of the players' commitment that day, even the ones that aren't great or weren't great. You can't question them. And I have to say, on Sunday, I was a very happy man. I was
I
just,
saw that.
I was
Do you
like,
know?
it was just the elation and the
Aye.
relief. I don't have a nail.
I woke up one Sunday morning and I said to my wife, I went, I'm quietly confident that we won. And then when I seen the team, I thought maybe my confidence is a bit misplaced here. But never at any point through the game, I think it was maybe I get into the last 5 minutes of the game, I thought, don't want to lose a goal here. Really don't want. And I kept saying to the people beside me and behind me, we're going to have a 15-minute spell in this game where we dominate. And to be fair, it never came. It didn't come. I mean, but still getting into the penalties, I thought they're going to take them up their end. Guaranteed they'll be up their end. And it not only do they take them up their end, they got the first penalty as well, which is always good to get the first one. If you score the first one, the pressure's on the opposition right away. You're under pressure to score yours. I obviously worked the other way with Tavernier missing, but I just never felt at any point we were really going to lose it. But as I say, 5 minutes to go, I thought we've been under sustained pressure. They're not creating a lot, but something maybe break for them, and it almost did a couple of times. You had the one that sort of rolled along the line, almost it rolled towards the line and was hacked away, and then you had their handball goal, which I mean there was a bit of chaos. It was really chaos in the penalty box at that point, but it looked like two handballs that, not just the one. So how
Yeah,
Don
yeah.
Robertson could actually miss that is beyond me. How? And I said to her, people were running, oh no, and I went, that's a handball. It's a handball. I mean, I can see it, and I'm away up the back of the stand, and I can see that. So he's slapped that into the net, so I was in no doubt that was going to be overturned. Although then I thought, no, Andrew Dallas is on VAR, so maybe they can find something that'll. I say maybe they'll find something to make it either let it stand or else get a penalty or something. Not I mean, so but thankfully it was overturned because they
Yeah,
had
and
no
then
option.
obviously
But
for both of us, it was it was a day of celebrations,
mm,
and then you probably I forgot about the draw. It was only later on I
aye,
went, oh, when is the draw? And then obviously we got St Mirren, and the Rangers have released a statement to say I don't think they've condemned our fans, right? But to release
no,
a
they won't.
statement to say we've broken seats, right? Which we
No,
shouldn't have, right? Anyone that breaks a seat needs to have a look at themselves, right? And then the graffiti, right? If this sticker thing is a new thing as well, right? They do it in Celtic Park. This
aye,
sticker thing, right? I'm,
it's,
I'm a bit old for I'm a bit old for
aye,
sticking stickers
stickers and
around, right?
graffiti.
That kind of came. I've only really noticed that big in the last 10 years,
Oh,
maybe.
it's
Maybe since
it's a
COVID.
one-upmanship thing.
Yeah,
So they painted obviously the city centre's covered in Rangers graffiti just now, Union Bear graffiti everywhere. Um, and
it's
that's what
like a
they
gang
go to.
mag in the territory.
Aye, they go out at night and they paint these key positions on the motorway and stuff, and it's just tit for tat, continual. It's just I've never really got the graffiti street art, know what I mean? But
But
I've
but
never
on the
really got
graffiti,
that. But
Mike, and
that's what it
you
is. It's a
tipped on it
one-upmanship.
earlier on. You tipped
Mm.
on it earlier on. Sorry about the graffiti. Any Celtic fan that mocks the death of other football fans and puts graffiti on a wall also needs to take a good look at themselves.
Aye, aye, it's
No
you
matter
can't
much,
claim moral
no
high
matter
ground
much
when you're doing
cocaine
stuff
they've
like that,
taken,
no?
you know
Aye,
what I mean?
no.
They need
You
to
can't
really take a look at themselves because
you can't complain about any other anybody else or take a moral high ground
yeah,
if that's
it's
your
embarrassing.
it's just it's really distasteful. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't get that. No,
And it's not us. It's
just
certainly not me. It's certainly not you.
just brings you down to to what the same level as they're at the ones you're
Yeah,
the ones you're moaning about. You know what I mean, so but
yeah.
I
But like and to be talking about that, right? And not the penalties, and the win, and to give the press an opportunity to have a pop at us, right?
aye
Don't score any own goals, but like, did you see the videos of the players going up the tunnel?
I did
Look,
aye
look at your fans. Look at your fans. There's a lot of Rangers fans
aye
run
look
by
at
in
your
the
fans
pitch, right?
aye
Uh, And then so it was just the most bizarre video, right? You've got the guy that's arrested for assaulting the Celtic backroom team.
Mm.
He's going up the tunnel, right? The Celtic players are going up the tunnel and getting abused, right? They're giving it back to the Rangers fans, and rightly so.
Aye.
You
The
know,
Rangers try to push the extendable tunnel back up.
yeah.
And by Rami getting
What was that all
Hyman's
about?
lift or something. He's knocked a iPad or a tablet out of somebody's hand, and
Oh.
it was just bizarre. Like.
And
Araujo was giving it.
He was giving it. Big Tam was giving it.
Oh.
One of Celtic subs was giving it. He was giving it back. Like, fair play to them. They weren't like, they were just going. But,
Aye.
they all. But you're wondering why that tunnel wasn't over.
Aye, I know.
Why that tunnel wasn't over, right? Like, surely that's the first thing you do. Is you pull the tunnel.
Maybe the stewards that are responsible for that, or whoever it is, have actually entered the field of play because of what's going on there. And are
getting assaulted by the union bells.
Aye.
It's just, look at your fans. Look at your fans.
Aye. You go back, but what happened? What was the outcome where the bottles getting thrown at the glass bottles getting thrown at Joe Hart and the member of Celtic staff getting stitches in the head and stuff? There was nothing for that. You know what I mean?
No.
So, there was no consequences for that.
When you think back to that
but
as
it's
well.
All the Celtic fans' fault.
And you know what as well, Michael, right? Fucking thoughts about that Celtic fan from Dundee that we spoke about earlier on. I read the statement from the supporters club, and I also heard that it was 2 Belfast buses.
Right.
But when I saw the video, I feared for the guy's life.
Aye.
Because for any coward to kick a man when he's unconscious on the ground it's to have that much hate in your heart is just absolutely disgusting. And I don't know if it's true. Someone said that they were lifted in Gervin. I don't know how true that is.
Right.
The police lifted them in Gervin. I haven't a clue how that is. But it's saying now that the lad was concussed but he's okay, and I hope he is. But he'll be traumatized, because no one deserves to go to a football match and not go home, Michael. And the media's reaction has been to blame.
Just a few fans jumping in for free.
Yeah, and then also to try and blame the two sets of fans, right?
Aye, it's the false.
Yes, both sets of fans went on the pitch.
Huh?
Rangers fans on 2 occasions, Celtic on 1 occasion. But like one was on celebrating a win with their biggest enemies, right? After a penalty shootout with half their team missing.
Aye.
It was something to celebrate. The others said, let's attack these.
Aye.
The police drew their batons and that, right? But they should never have got up the pitch. If it had been stewarded and policed correctly, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And then on top of that, Glasgow Bones that night. What a day for the city.
Crazy. At least nobody died in the fire. Or at the football, thankfully, because there has been times in the past when after the games and that people have been murdered through just absolutely mindless violence. I mean, so but the thing is, we're in the cup semi-final. We're still in the league. Rangers are a point behind us. I'm just so glad. I mean, there was a lot of Celtic supporters that were hoping Hearts would have won at Ibrox the other week. I'm so glad Hearts didn't win at Ibrox the other week, because that would have been a mountain that was insurmountable, I think. No, I don't think we're going to really struggle to catch Hearts as it is just now. I think it's going to be a big ask. If they had took the 3 points at Ibrox, they would have been uncatchable, I think. Definitely, because I don't really understand. I know we want our biggest rivals and stuff. Traditionally, they're our biggest rivals, Rangers. We want them to lose every game, but for me, the only outcome that suited us was Rangers actually winning that game, and so it's turned out, because it's going to be really hard catching them. We're running out of games, and Hearts aren't losing many, so we're going to have to beat them, and somebody else is going to have to beat them. All right, so I heard somebody saying the other day, we probably need to win 8 out of 9. And I think that's probably right. I think we will need to win 8 out of 9. So
And nothing is
thankfully we've got
nothing is a
a
given.
good
You
run of home
know,
games.
we've
We've got to
now
go
got
Dundee twice coming up. So 2
all
tough
away
games.
games. Yeah,
Motherwell at home, tough and Dundee, two games in succession. And I think that after the split, I mean, anybody could beat anybody in that top 6 almost.
I think we're now on a level playing field. We've all played the same amount of games, Michael, and we now have, you know, this week is the fourth week. I can't remember that we went traveling midweek.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, rest. Hopefully that works in our favour and doesn't work against us.
Yeah, and now we have now we've got this week. The players have had a night out on Sunday night. They'll probably have a Monday off, well deserved. They'll be back in training now, and it will give the coaching staff a little bit of time to work with some of the players on the training ground, because they can't have had much time.
Yeah,
you know,
and hopefully it gives the injured players a bit of recovery time as well, no? So.
And let's hope that we're celebrating Saturday night when we sit down for dinner to pay tribute to John Fallon in Glasgow at our annual dinner, Michael. I'm looking forward to it, seeing everybody again. And but it's always a better night, and if we beat Motherwell, it'll be a great night. So I'll talk to you in person on Saturday.
Okay, hopefully we're talking about
so much to talk with. So much, we definitely won't have this much to talk about next week.
I've hardly even scraped the surface there as well.
There's a book in it, Michael. Get yourself.
Another one.
Thanks a million, Michael.
Cheers, mate. Have a great day,
folks. Thanks very much for listening, and catch us again on the podcast, the Celtic Soul Podcast. Thank you very much.